Okay, this video recording is for our 2019 paper 2. So you have gone through the paper once already by doing it, and now it is time to learn from the mistakes. Okay, so there are three types of errors that you can be penalized for. Presentation error. So sometimes when you just do all your working without any labels, we will deduct 1 mark for your presentation. Now accuracy, if you did not round off to the correct significant figure, or there's an error in rounding off, you also can be penalized 1 mark. And if you do not state the units or you state incorrect units, you will also be penalized. So an example on how to cancel your errors. So cancel away neatly. You are supposed to use very neat and clear labels. And on the other side, now if you have found an answer, it is okay for you to write this, but it is best to write it according to the context of the question. So if you want the final price as a percentage, I would expect you to finally write percentage of usual price is 59.5%. Okay, yep, so that's the first part. So now let's go straight to the questions. Okay, question 1A was not well done. Okay, so in the question they tell us that the item is sold at a discount of 30% off the usual price. Then members are given a further 15%. So the member has to pay a total of 85% of discounted price. So this 85% came about because of an extra 15% discount. Okay, so this extra is on top of the discounted price, and this discounted price is actually 70% of original. Okay, because there was a 30% discount. That is why we have 85% times 70% to give us 59.5%. The common error is simply to add 15% plus 30% to give us 45%. And then you tell me that the answer will be 55%. Okay, so this is wrong. You cannot just stack the discounts together like this. Now next, part B, traveling from a country to another country, generally well done. So find out the total time, then find out the time in Singapore, and finally the time in Moscow. Okay, so there are three parts that we require. First is the time, we need the day as well as the date. Okay, next, now part C, we need to write down a rational number exactly between 1/12 and 1/14. So finding the number in between is the same as finding the average. Alright, then for example, number between 2 and 3 is 2 plus 3/2, which is 2.5. Another example, the number between 4 and 10 is 4 plus 10/2, which is 7. So now today the number is between 1/12 and 1/14. So the answer is 1/12 plus 1/14/2, and we get 13/168. Of course, this is the most common misconception. You think that between 12 and 14 is 13, therefore in the middle must be 1/13, but it doesn't work that way. Okay, now question 2A. 2A is generally well done, but I require you to write the labels, because many of you are able to do this without showing me what you are calculating. So I need to see this, your statement. You are finding the total time. So once you have the two different expressions for the two different parts of the journey, the time is just distance divided by the speed. So fraction plus fraction make the denominator the same, which in this case clearly it is 2. So you multiply by 2, here you multiply by 3, get the answer write down that you have shown it, because in a question they ask you to show. So you have to write down that it is shown. So presentation needs work over here. Okay, so please write down the shown. Next, part B, they are telling us that the total time taken is 9 hours and 25 minutes. So convert 9 hours 25 minutes into hours, because in part A, our total time is in hours. So we need to convert our 9 hours 25 minutes into one unit only, which is hours. So that is 113 over 12. So since both of these are finding the total hour, then we can equate what is our answer in part A to 113 over 12. And again, we write the word shown. Now, if you just wrote 9 hours 25 minutes is 113 over 12, but you did not link back to this, you don't get any mark. You need to link it back to your answer in part A. Now in part C, they ask you to simply solve. When we have a fraction equals to another fraction, multiply this way. Okay, so work out, this is generally well done. Most of you got 9 over 2, or rather 4.5, they are the same. Do not use this symbol for division. Okay, next on part D, calculate the average speed. So average speed will be the total distance over the total time. So total distance will be 24, the total time 113 over 12. So you get these as your possible answers. Okay, this is discouraged because this is exact. These are exact. So we should not be writing this. Okay, these are some of the comments. Now if you used 113 over 12 as your time, but you rounded off with 3SF, you will lose an accuracy mark. Now 3A. For question 3A, we are supposed to simplify. So this is the final working, this is the final answer. For every mistake we will deduct 1 mark. So if you are not confident about this, let's go back to the original question. 18y over 4xy cubed divided by 3x squared y over 2x. So we have a fraction divided by a fraction. In our primary school, our teacher told us that we can change this to a multiply. Then we flip what is over here. So 2x over 3x squared y. Okay? Now, since we have a fraction multiplied by a fraction, we can actually combine them together and multiply numerator with numerator, denominator with denominator. So if you're uncomfortable with cancelling directly, split everything. So we've got 18 times y times 2 times x. Now see, all these times and x, if your multiply looks like x, it will confuse you. So one way we can avoid that will be 18 multiplied by y multiplied by 2 multiplied by x divided by 4 multiplied by x. Now instead of writing y cubed, you can write down y, y, and y. Then next multiply by 3, x, x, and y. So here it makes things easier for us to cancel. So grab your pencil. We see 18 and a 4. Okay, divide by 2, we get 9. Divide by 2, you get 2. Continue to work with the numbers. So 2 and 2 cancel off. 9, further divide it to become 3, gone. So we find a y that is common. We find an x that is common. So now we are left with only one number as the numerator. In our denominator, we do not have numbers anymore. Instead, we have x times x. So this gives us x squared. And we have y, y, and y. So y to the power of 3. Okay, so this is how we can do it. If the powers are small, if the powers are large, then you will have to learn how to cancel them without writing everything down. So another common mistake is that you did not simplify the like terms. For example, you leave 6 over 2 instead of 3. Okay, next question. we are supposed to factorize this. So actually what is a common question over here would be like this. 6xd minus 3x minus 4y plus 8yd. They ask you to factorize this. Now, if you're given this question, it is 4 terms. So you have to group them according to like terms. Okay, you have to grab 2 terms. For example, let's pair them up this way. So 6xd minus 3x, then you factorize, you get 3x times 2d minus 1. Then the next 2 terms, you factorize out the negative 4y, you obtain 1 minus 2d. So actually, this is our intermediate step, if this is the question, which we are familiar with. Okay, so that's all that there is to it. Now they are just starting from the intermediate step for you, which should make things easier for you. Okay, so instead of arriving at the answer straight away, let me show you how this can be done. Now factorize. We see that this is 2d minus 1 and this is 1 minus 2d. If only I can change this 1 minus 2d to become 2d minus 1. If I can do that, then I have the same factor, 2d minus 1 and 2d minus 1. But I cannot just change it as and when I like it. So that is why, let me just put this on first, 2d minus 1. Then we currently have minus 4y times 1 minus 2d. So here is the change. 1 minus 2d becomes 2d minus 1, and I change the sign outside. So this gives, we can factorize out the common factor, 2d minus 1 multiplied by 3x plus 4y. Now part C, to solve this, we have the original question looks like this, 4m plus 1 over 2 minus 5m minus 3 over 5 equals to 1. So fraction minus fraction, you have to make the denominators the same. Times 5 times 2 times 2. So we will end up with 5 times 4m plus 1. Notice that I am not expanding yet. This is over 10. And we have minus 2 times of 5m minus 3, again over 10, equals to 1. Okay, so you can leave it as 1, you can put it as 10 over 10 as a fraction, or you can put it as 1 over 1, up to you. Now the denominators are the same already, so we can combine them into the common denominator. But what is the sign over here? Is it a plus or minus? Earlier on it was a minus, so we put a minus over here. And this is where the mistake happens. When you expand 20m plus 5, no problem. Negative 2 times 5m, you get negative 10m, no problem. The problem lies over here. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, not negative 6. So this is over 10. This is equal to, if you like, you can leave it as 10 over 10. You can put it as 1 over 1. You can just leave it as 1. It is up to you. Okay, so if you leave it as 10 over 10, it just means that the numerator is equal to 10. If you put it as 1 over 1, I take it that you want to multiply this way, which also means that the numerator times 1 equals to the denominator of 10 times 1, which is the same thing again. So they all point to the same solution. So from here, the next step will be 10m plus 11 over 10 equals to 1 over 1. You can multiply 10m plus 11 equals to 10. 10m equals to, now we subtract 11 on both sides. And m must be negative 1 over 10. Okay, the angles over here, generally well done. Okay, so I will not be going through this. Just make sure you write down your statements, your reasons, and help me understand what you are calculating. Okay, so you can pause the video and copy your corrections. Okay, you can read through the comments over here also. Right, now question 5, very important question. because now we are dealing with explanation. This guy says that ABC, the polygon, ABC is part of another regular polygon. So we had a regular hexagon first. So regular hexagon, you must be able to tell me the interior angle, which is 120 degrees. So this is 120 degrees. And then there's a pentagon. So a pentagon has 5 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So calculation of the interior angle of pentagon will be 108 degrees. So this guy comes along and says that ABC is part of another regular polygon. So we're going to find out the angle for this ABC, which is 132 degrees. Then the question we ask ourselves is, can 132 degrees be an angle of a regular polygon? So there are 2 ways to do it. One is by considering the exterior angle, the other is by considering the interior angle. Okay, so if we consider the exterior angle, we say that let n be number of sides. So then the interior angle must be n minus 2 times 180 degrees divided by n. And this is supposed to be equal to 132 degrees. So now our objective is to solve this equation. So this is 132 degrees over 1. We cross multiply this way. We obtain n minus 2, 180 equals to 132 degrees times n. Expand on the left hand side, 180 degrees times n minus 360 degrees equals to 132 degrees times n. We subtract 132 degrees times n on both sides. We arrive at 48 degrees times n. On the other side, 360 degrees. So n will be 360 over 48, which gives us 7.5. So apparently, 132 degrees as an interior angle is possible if my polygon has 7.5 sides. But that is impossible. We cannot have 7.5 sides. We can have 7 sides, we can have 8 sides, but it cannot be 7.5 because it is not a whole number. So from here, you need to state, since n is not a whole number, many of you managed to get 7.5 and you straight away concluded that it is not part of a regular polygon. You need to explain why. And the reason is because 7.5 is not a whole number. It is not an integer. It is not a positive integer. These are the words that we need to see. Then we can conclude. So instead of using the interior angles as shown over here, rather complicated, we can make use of another property. That is, the exterior angle equals to 180 minus the interior, which we found to be 132, which is 48 degrees. So the formula that we know, let n be number of sides again. So 360 degrees over n must be the exterior angle, 48 degrees. So this is the formula, okay, that relates our exterior angle with the number of sides. So from here we find the value of n again. We are always trying to find the number of sides. So 360 over 48 degrees, we get the same non-integer. It is not a whole number. And since it is not a whole number, we say it is not part of a regular polygon. Okay, you have to state it. Okay, number patterns. Okay, so now for the number pattern question, don't be afraid. Try to answer the question, try to understand it. So we see that this number, this table that we have is divided into 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm sure you can see the pattern. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. You can see the number pattern. It is just an addition of 1. But today, they gave it a twist. They drew a box that covers 4 numbers. So this outline 2 by 2 can be placed anywhere on the grid where n represents the number in the top left hand corner. So in the question, they actually outline this for you. So in this case, this will be our value of n, top left hand corner. So what is the number on the bottom right corner? This number over here. Well, we can see that this is 18, but we want you to express this in terms of n. How is 18 related to 12? So we can see that actually 18 is just 12 plus 6. It's the same as 12 plus 6, which is the same as n plus 6. So let's test it out to see whether this is true for every case or not. So now we are going to draw our box elsewhere. Okay, same box, 4 by 4. Let's put it over here for simplicity. If this is n, then this must be n plus 6. Oh, it appears to work. We add 6 to get a number at the bottom right. Okay, let's randomly choose another box. Let's choose this box. If this is n, this must be n plus 6 again. So it works. And this is the number pattern. So here we have n plus 6. So what about the number exactly below n? So back to the original box that they chose for us. Now if 12 is n, the number below it is just plus 5. No matter where you put the box, it will be the number on top plus 5 to get the number at the bottom. So next, part B. They want you to find the sum of the 4 numbers in the unit outline, and they want you to show that it is always a multiple of 4. So this is related to part 1 and part 2. Now the sum of the numbers inside, the first number is n. The last number is n plus 6, which we found earlier on. And the second last number is n plus 5. Then this is the number to the right hand side of our n. Okay, so there is just n plus 1. Whatever n is, we just add 1. So this is the top left. This is the top right. This is bottom right. This is our bottom left. So you add all of them up, we get 4n plus 12. Now this gives you 1 mark. This is the sum. The next part is to prove that this is a multiple of 4. How do you prove that something is a multiple of 4? You do so by factorizing. Okay, so this is the key to prove something is a multiple of 4. You factorize 4 out. So if you can factorize 4 out, it means that 4 is a factor. That means that number is a multiple of 4. So here we factorize 4, we're left with n plus 3. And from here, we can conclude. Therefore, the sum is always a multiple of 4. So over here, it is insufficient to say that when you divide by 4, you get n plus 3, without explaining that n is always a positive integer, and therefore n plus 3 is also an integer. Doing this requires extra steps. So the other issue is that some students, they show the sum. They use concrete examples. They take 12 plus 13 plus 17 plus 18, and you get a multiple of 4. But it is insufficient to show that any sum, I need it to be the case for any sum, instead of just 1 example or 2 examples or 3 examples. Even 100 examples are not enough. I need all of them. So at the end of it all, put down shown. Okay, now next, they tell us that the sum of 4 numbers is 96. So we found this earlier on, and we get 21. Now we have the graph question. surprisingly, quite a number are unable to follow the instructions. They tell us to use the vertical. Vertical means upright. We're using that for V. Horizontal for T. So you have to follow the instructions. You cannot put V here and T here. Likewise, you cannot put Y, you cannot put X. So 1 mark for the scale and the axis, 1 mark for the points, and 1 mark for the straight line. So these are the common issues, some of which I've already mentioned. You need to label regularly. So label minimally every 2 cm, okay, for 2 big squares. Use an X, use a cross, not a dot to mark the points. So now, for B part 1, they are asking us for the initial volume of the ice cube. So at the start, initial means time equals to 0. When time equals to 0, let's see what the volume is. It is exactly 350 cubic centimeters. Now part 2, the volume at 8 minutes. So identify where your 8 minutes is. This is 9 and this must be 8. So draw a line up. This gives us a value of 190. So look carefully. 190 cubic centimeters. For the volume to become 100. So this is our time, which is exactly between 10 and 15. So like mentioned at the start of the paper, exactly in between will be the average. Divided by 2, that gives us 12.5 minutes. Okay, now part C, after k minutes, the graph is invalid. Yeah, many of you managed to give me 17.5 minutes. That is over here, 17.5 minutes. Why is it that after 17.5 minutes, it doesn't make sense anymore? The reason is because it has already completely melted. But it is not good enough to just state that, because we need to link it back to the vertical axis of volume. You tell us that after 17.5 minutes, the value for the volume, okay, this portion, its volume is negative. Look, negative volumes, which is impossible. And that is why the value of k is 17.5. And then for part D, part 1, by using the points on your graph, calculate. So they want you to calculate. You can choose any 2 points using your gradient, which is our A. Why is A the gradient? Because the equation is given V equals to AT plus B. So you compare that with Y equals to mx plus C, where V and Y are variables, X and T are variables, so M and A, they refer to the same thing, which is gradient. So rise over run. No matter which 2 points you choose, you will end up with negative 20. Okay, so that is the gradient. However, although you manage to calculate the gradient, some have difficulty answering what the physical significance is. The physical significance is not the gradient. I need you to explain what does 20 mean. So it means the ice cube is, the volume is decreasing at 20 cubic centimeters per minute. Every 1 minute, the volume drops by 20 cubic centimeters. Next, question 8. Generally well done. I've seen many of you manage to write out this statement. Okay, this is key. So we have half times the sum of parallel sides. Here we have 4.8, 7.2, and the perpendicular height of unknown, which is h, and this is 3. So half times the sum of parallel sides, 4.8, 7.2, multiplied by the unknown height, multiplied by 3, you give me 72. So from here, you divide and you obtain the perpendicular height to be equal to 4. So if you don't do it this way, and you give me something really complicated, that means your working looks like this. Height equals to 72 divided by half, divide by 3, divide by 4.8 plus 7.2, I will give you 0 marks because I do not understand what you are doing. You need to show me this. So next, the radius of the tunnel. And then after that, get a volume. So it is actually the same concrete structure, the same trapezium, with the same trapezoidal prism. But now they cut out a semicircular tunnel. The diameter of the circle is 1/3 the length of the longer parallel side of the trapezium. So 1/3 of the 7.2 diameter equals to 7.2 over 3, which gives me 2.4 meters. This is the diameter. Therefore, radius equals to 1.2 meters. Now, the volume is calculated by cross-sectional area multiplied by the length. Okay, so cross-sectional area, in this case we have our trapezium, half times the sum of parallel sides, 4.8 plus 7.2, and the height we found earlier to be 4, minus away half of a semicircle, so pi, radius is 1.2 square over 2. This is the cross-sectional area, and we still need to multiply this by 3. So that's one way to do it. The other way is faster. How is it faster? Because we already were given that the volume of that trapezoidal prism is 72. So we just need to take 72, we carve out this half of a cylinder, which has a radius of 1.2. So half of a semicircle times the length to give us 65.2. So for part 2, the surface area of the structure. Okay, they tell us not to include the bottom of the structure, but I think some of you have misunderstood to think that we don't need to calculate the curved portion. So for this, when we draw the outline, remember I always tell you that the surface area, we draw the outline of the cross-sectional area. So we have this, 2, 3 straight lines. They tell us not to include the bottom, but we still have to include the curve. So this will be our parameter for calculation. Okay, so to find the total surface area, we need 2 times of the base area. Okay, so there is one base area at the front and one base area at the back, or rather cross-sectional area. They are the same thing. So 2 times of, this is the area of the trapezium, half times sum of parallel sides times the perpendicular height of 4. Here we take away the area of semicircle. So we remove that. And this is the cross-sectional area. So the perimeter of the base, take note, we are not including the 2 bottom distances. Okay, so we've got the 2 slanted sides of 5 meters and another 5 meters. This will be the top of the trapezium. We are not including the bottom of the trapezium. So here we have the half circumference. And we multiply it by the length of 3. So we add this value to the previous answer for the 2 base area, 43.476. And you get the answer and round it off to become 99.2 square meters. Okay, for question 9, generally quite well done for P and Q, and also for R. Okay, so actually it is just multiplication division, addition, and subtraction over here. So to find the value for P, we are given, we use 40 cubic meters. The rate is P dollars per cubic meter. And we ended up paying $46. So if 1 cubic meter costs P 46, 40 cubic meters cost 46, then we're able to find the value of P. So we do so like this. $46 for 40 cubic meters. P dollars for 1 cubic meter. And we want to find P. So you can switch it around. So actually it is easier if you switch it around. Okay, let me just redo that. 40 cubic meters cost 46. So 1 cubic meter cost P, right? And that is the same as 46 over 40, which is 1.15. And this is our P. So P is equal to 1.15. So that is done. And now let's take a look at Q. Q will be the total for the sanitary appliance fees. Okay, so we obtain the value of Q based on the total charges. Remember, they tell us that total charges equals to 89.08. So this is our A plus B. So we can work it all out. Our water services for A is 46 plus 7.42 plus 12.91 plus Q. B, we have 13.8 plus 3.34, and all of them when added up gives us 89.08. So we can find out that Q is simply 5.61. So the first two done. And for R, to find the value of R, we will require the value of Q. So they tell us that for one fitting, for one toilet bowl, it costs $2 and $2.805. One fitting cost $2.805. How many fittings or fittings cost? And that's our value for Q, 5.61. R must be equal to 2. So from then on, to calculate S, okay? So S over 100, that is our S percent, multiplied by 46 equals to 13.80. So work it out, S will be 30. So T is just an addition, then, T is our GST. So 7 over 100, which is 7%, multiplied by 89.08, you get the answer. And U is just the sum of all. And you get this answer. So in when we're dealing with money, we will accept 2 decimal places. Okay, in fact, this should be the 2 answers. So please do your corrections and learn from your mistakes. You can do it.